power!
Saw, or Saw, the video game, is a survival horror title created by Zombie Studios and brought to you by Konami for platforms like PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Microsoft Windows. It hit the shelves in North America on October 6, 2009, and made its way to other areas later that same year. The Windows version specifically launched on October 22, 2009. Tied to the Saw movie series, the game takes place in the timeline between the first and second films. In the movie Saw, the Jigsaw Killer has patched up Detective David Tapp after he got shot and thrown him into an old, insane asylum to teach him a thing or two about valuing life. Tapp, obsessed with catching Jigsaw, roams through the asylum, piecing together clues. As he explores, he runs into several people connected to his past that he needs to rescue. But the asylum isn't just a walk in the park. There are others inside who are part of their own deadly games and are out to get Tapp. Throughout his journey, Tapp learns about Jigsaw's backstory and the reasons behind his twisted tests. The game's development team even brought in the original Saw creators, James Wan and Lee Wannell, to help craft the plot and design new traps. Gameplay. Saw is mainly a third-person survival horror game that mixes in some action elements. You play as David Tapp, a former detective who finds himself stuck in a creepy, abandoned asylum loaded with jigsaw traps. Your main mission is to navigate through the asylum and avoid the traps to make your escape. Tapp has a few skills at his disposal, like searching through toilets and bodies to uncover useful items like weapons, health packs, or clues to help him achieve his goals. You can also discover hidden items like case files and cassette tapes scattered throughout the asylum, which reveal more about its dark history and the stories of some of the victims. The combat system in the game lets your character block, counter, and strike back at enemies. Players can choose from over 18 different weapons, like lead pipes, mop handles, guns, and explosives. Some weapons can also serve other functions, like slicing open a body to check inside or smashing through a wall to uncover secret paths. Weapons wear out in real time as you use them until they can't be used anymore. If you want to avoid a fight, Tapp can set up traps or rearm them after using. For instance, he can electrify puddles or set explosive mines on Jigsaw's work tables. Tapp's health bar can only be replenished with bandages or hypodermic needles, which you can keep in your inventory. When Tapp's health is low, the surroundings gradually turn black and white until he heals or meets his end. Throughout the game, players will team up with AI companions who assist Tapp on his journey. There are various moments where players can choose different paths to bypass certain areas or discover hidden treasures. The lighting in the game is quite dynamic. Tapp starts off with a lighter, but as the game progresses, players can find other light sources like flashlights or camera flashes. Mini-games are a big part of the experience, featuring challenges like a search game that uses an X-ray view to dodge hazards like razors and syringes, and a race against a pain meter to grab a key before it fills up and harms Tapp. Other puzzle mini-games involve tasks like powering up fuse boxes, fitting rotating gears into a box, and aligning steam valves. Watch out for doors rigged with shotguns on pulleys scattered throughout the asylum. When you come across one, you'll need to hit a randomly assigned button before the pulley drops too far, or else the gun will go off. There are also puzzles known as environmental traps, where Tapp has to interact with various elements in the environment, use the in-game camera, or visit specific locations to complete tasks. Synopsis: the setting. Just like the earlier films, Saw takes place in a made-up universe in an unnamed U.S. city. The main story revolves around a guy named John Kramer. As revealed in Saw Arfu, John went through a tough time, facing the loss of his unborn child, being diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor, getting divorced, and even attempting suicide. These experiences pushed him to start testing other people's will to survive. Ironically, Many of his victims ended up dead, and he became known as the Jigsaw Killer, after a reporter named Oswald McGullicuddy noted how he would carve puzzle pieces from his victims' flesh. In the timeline of Saw, Jigsaw is still alive, and his apprentice Amanda is thought to be more of a victim than a partner in crime. In the first Saw movie, Jigsaw has just wrapped up the bathroom trap involving Lawrence Gordon and Adam Stanheight. This creepy old sanitarium is known for its harsh treatment of patients. The asylum is filled with various areas, each featuring key trap scenes for Tapp to figure out. A significant part of the place used to house the criminally insane, and Jigsaw has set up traps throughout the asylum to keep testing Detective Tapp and his apprentice, Amanda Young, who keeps an eye on him as the plot unfolds. The characters. Saw centers on the Jigsaw Killer and his main target, Detective David Tapp. Jigsaw, a serial killer with a twisted sense of purpose, aims to make people value their lives through a series of deadly games. He sends clues to Tapp, often through his creepy puppet, Billy. Tapp, a seasoned detective, has recently been let go from the police force due to mental health issues stemming from the death of his partner, Stephen Singh. This tragedy has fueled Tapp's obsession with capturing Jigsaw. Throughout the game, Jigsaw tries to teach Tapp to move past his fixation and focus on staying alive. Alongside Tapp and Jigsaw, there are 6 key characters that Tapp needs to rescue. Amanda Young is a drug addict who secretly works as Jigsaw's apprentice. Jennings Foster is a crooked CSI who wrongfully accused an innocent person of a hit-and-run he committed. Melissa Singh, Tapp's late partner's wife, holds Tapp responsible for her husband's death and has become a neglectful mother. Oswald McGullicuddy is a journalist who named the Jigsaw Killer and has accused Tapp of being him. Obi is an arsonist looking for a challenge from Jigsaw to find meaning in his life. Jeff Riddenhauer, the second person to survive Jigsaw's games, has fallen into despair after Tapp's relentless questioning. There are also several minor characters scattered throughout the asylum, many of whom are instructed to kill Tapp to retrieve a key that Jigsaw has placed inside him. Some attackers are equipped with a reverse bear trap, while others have a Venus fly trap, or unique traps of their own. Notably, a masked figure known as Pighead serves as the main antagonist, stalking Tapp and overseeing the game as per Jigsaw's orders. By the end of the game, Pighead becomes the sole boss battle. The plot. The plot revolves around David Tapp being kidnapped by the Jigsaw Killer. In the first Saw movie, Tapp saw his close friend and partner, Detective Stephen Singh, fall victim to one of Jigsaw's deadly traps. This traumatic experience left Tapp in a fragile mental state, leading to his dismissal from the police force. Later on, while chasing Zepp Hindle in pursuit of Jigsaw, Tapp gets shot in the chest. Jigsaw then has Tapp treated and hides a key inside him. Tapp finds himself in an abandoned, insane asylum, waking up in a bathroom with a reverse bear trap on his head. He manages to remove it and explores the asylum, where he meets another victim of Jigsaw who leads him to the medical wing, only to betray him. Tapp discovers that other victims are hunting him down for the key in his chest, which they need to escape their own deadly games. In the medical wing, Jigsaw tells Tapp that a woman is trapped nearby and needs his help to survive. Tapp quickly realizes it's Amanda Young, whom he had interviewed after she survived her first test. He rescues Amanda, but she is soon captured by a mysterious figure known as Pighead, who fakes her escape. It turns out she's actually Jigsaw's secret apprentice. Tapp has to venture deeper into the asylum, where he gets caught by Pighead and ends up in a shotgun collar, a device that later appears in Saw 3. While trapped, Tapp encounters another victim, Jennings Foster, who blames Tapp for his predicament and holds a grudge against him. Jennings is stuck in a pendulum trap, reminiscent of the one from Saw V. After Tapp frees him, Jennings bolts, convinced that sticking around would only get him killed. Tapp continues his search for Jigsaw's next victim and stumbles upon the grave of his old partner, Detective Singh. There, he learns that Jigsaw has taken Melissa Singh, the detective's widow. She's been neglecting her kids and believes Tapp is to blame for her husband's death. Melissa is trapped in a deadly Iron Maiden-like device with spinning blades that could tear her apart if it closes. Jigsaw tells her that Tapp didn't call for backup during the search of his lair, implying that if proper police procedures had been followed, they could have avoided the traps, making Tapp responsible for Singh's demise. After Tapp rescues her, Melissa reveals that Jigsaw offered her a chance to leave Tapp, and she quickly makes her escape. Tapp is starting to realize that everyone around him has a twisted link to his past. He heads over to the building's offices and stumbles upon Oswald McGullicuddy caught in the next Jigsaw trap. Jigsaw believes Oswald is misinterpreting his message, so he's stuck in a folding table trap that could snap him in two if Tapp doesn't step in. Tapp manages to save Oswald, but before they can even catch their breath, a metal slab crushes Oswald in an instant. Next, Jigsaw takes Tapp to the asylum's crematorium and reveals that some people actually want to go through his tests, which shocks Tapp. There, he meets Obi, an arsonist who had been advertising for Jigsaw to put him to the test. Tapp rescues him from a fiery furnace, but Obi is still angry because he wanted to face his own challenge. Feeling like Tapp is wasting a chance given by Jigsaw, Obi bolts. Tapp then makes his way through a theater and discovers that a former Jigsaw victim is being held captive. It turns out to be Jeff Ridenour, the guy Singh saved while Tapp was in Jigsaw's lair. Jeff has become suicidal due to Tapp's relentless questioning and has been recaptured by Jigsaw. Tapp saves him from a wall of spikes, but Jeff, still upset, runs off, injured. With this being the last victim in the asylum, Tapp is ready to chase after Jigsaw, but runs into Pighead again. Jigsaw warns Tapp that Pighead wants to outdo him and mess up Tapp's game, so he needs to be dealt with. Tapp confronts and kills Pighead to grab a key to move forward, prompting Jigsaw to ask Tapp if he considers himself a murderer. The finale. Tapp makes his way to the library in the asylum, where he finally comes face to face with Jigsaw, who lays out the last choice he has to make to finish his test. Tapp tries to chase down Jigsaw but ends up empty-handed, though he does manage to grab the key for his final decision. Now, Tapp has two endings to choose from. He can go back to the library and pick between freedom, which lets him leave without catching Jigsaw, or truth, where Jigsaw promises to satisfy Tapp's obsession with him, but it comes with a price. If the player opts for the freedom door, Tapp breaks free from the asylum, allowing the others trapped inside to escape as well. He heads back to his apartment and looks over some newspaper articles that call him a hero for saving those who survived the asylum's tests. However, Tapp can't shake off his fixation on Jigsaw and ultimately takes his own life in his apartment, leaving Jigsaw free to continue his twisted games, as seen in the following Saw films. The sequel, Saw 2, Flesh and Blood, includes newspaper articles that confirm Tapp's escape and tragic end, making this outcome part of the official story. On the other hand, if the player chooses the truth door, Tapp chases after a mysterious figure in a cloak, thinking it's Jigsaw. After catching up and beating the figure, he discovers it's actually Melissa Singh. A tape found on her reveals that Jigsaw had tasked her with keeping Tapp alive and ensuring he played by the rules after he saved her. Jigsaw had kidnapped her son and had Pighead sew her mouth shut to prevent her from ruining Tapp's test. In a panic, Melissa tries to escape through a door rigged with a shotgun, which ends up killing her just like her husband, Stephen Singh. Tapp is left shattered by her death and ends up in a functioning asylum, still convinced he's part of Jigsaw's games. Game development. Before Saw 3 hit theaters, Twisted Pictures and Brash Entertainment revealed their plans to make a game inspired by the Saw franchise. While they didn't confirm a release date, they hinted that it would probably come out around the same time as Saw 4. Initially, Brash Entertainment was set to handle the game's development and co-publish it with Twisted Pictures, who produced all the Saw movies. The game was originally supposed to mirror the storyline of the first Saw film, letting players take on the roles of different characters caught in Jigsaw's traps, but that concept evolved as development moved forward. After the first announcement, Brash Entertainment went quiet with updates. The only news came from a teaser site for the game, which was taken down as production ramped up. The game made a comeback at the Game Developers Conference in 2008 on January 22nd, where a teaser trailer was shown. In the trailer, Billy the Puppet, a familiar face from the franchise, was seen lecturing reporters about how they were wasting their lives. Brash Entertainment revealed that Zombie Studios had stepped in to develop the game, while they would handle the publishing. The trailer also gave a sneak peek at some gameplay features from one of the traps in the game. Following the trailer, Brash confirmed that the game would run on Unreal Engine 3 and be available on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, and Microsoft Windows. Shortly after, a poster was unveiled at the 2008 Comic-Con, showcasing a distorted gamepad in a pool of blood, along with the catchy tagline, "Dying to Play," created by Brash. To spice things up, the development team brought in James Wan and Lee Whannell, the minds behind the original Saw film, to craft new traps and enhance the game's storyline. On November 14, 2008, Brash Entertainment announced in a press conference that they were shutting down due to financial issues. Since they were working with Twisted Pictures on a game, it was left in a bit of a limbo. The game was already pretty far along, so Lionsgate, the owners of the Saw brand, thought about publishing it themselves. However, they quickly decided against it since they mainly focus on films and don't have much experience in gaming. After nearly 4 months of uncertainty, Konami stepped in on February 6, 2009, to take over the game's distribution and development. Under Konami's guidance, the game was reimagined as a spiritual successor to their Silent Hill series. While some original elements stayed, Konami had a significant impact on its development. The only actor from the films to return was Tobin Bell, who reprised his role as the Jigsaw Killer. Other roles were filled by well-known voice actors in the gaming world, with Earl Alexander taking over for Danny Glover as David Tapp and Jen Taylor voicing Amanda Young instead of Shawnee Smith. David Scully voiced Oswald McGullicutie, and Khan Doan played a new character, Melissa Singh. Konami aimed to focus on the visual intensity of Saw rather than the usual psychological horror. The marketing and release. To promote the game, Konami dropped a bunch of screenshots and viral videos before its launch. The screenshots showcased various spots in the asylum and the victims caught in their traps. The videos gave a sneak peek into the first hour of gameplay, highlighting some key elements. Although a few videos were a bit off due to major changes made by the developers to the environment and gameplay, they still kept the core essence of the game and its story intact. On August 8, 2009, the Konami website completely wiped out the section dedicated to Saw, including all screenshots and details. Thankfully, it was back up within a few days, featuring updated info like the official ESRB rating of mature 17+ for blood, gore, drug references, intense violence, and strong language. Later on, the BBFC and ACB also gave Saw ratings of 18 and MA15+, respectively, while PEGI rated it 18 for violence and foul language. Initially, there were plans for an online multiplayer mode, but that idea got scrapped. Since the game was still in early development, no extra details were shared. On September 17, 2009, Konami unveiled the complete list of Xbox Live achievements for the Xbox 360 version. The game hit North America on October 6, 2009 for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, with other regions and the Microsoft Windows version following later in 2009. The Windows version, which came out on October 22, 2009, was originally set to be exclusive to Valve's Steam service, but Konami later clarified that Saw would also be available through another online platform, Direct-to-Drive. The reception. Saw got a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to reviews. The Xbox 360 version sits at an average score of 59% on Metacritic, based on 35 reviews, while the PlayStation 3 version also holds a 59% from 36 reviews. Over on game rankings, the Xbox 360 version scores a bit higher at 60.89% from 27 reviews, but the PlayStation 3 version drops to 58.57% from 23 reviews. The PC version is lagging behind with a low score of 44.33%, based on just 3 reviews. Critics generally loved the storyline and the 2 endings, and they often highlighted how immersive the atmosphere felt, staying true to the Saw series. However, opinions on the puzzle quality were all over the place. Many reviewers weren't fans of the controls, and the combat system was pretty much universally criticized. Official Xbox magazine gave it a 4.5 out of 10, saying, "Whether you're swinging a pipe or a scalpel, the controls never feel responsive, and rotten collision detection will drive you mad before Jigsaw's twisted games even have the chance." On the flip side, David Clayman from IGN rated it a 7.5 out of 10, calling it good. He appreciated the fresh take on the survival horror genre and Jigsaw's constant presence, but pointed out the repetitive puzzles and the flawed combat system, even dubbing the combat the game's Achilles heel. Overall, Saw is a welcome entry in the horror genre that provides a good dosage of thrills. Depending on your tolerance for repetition, it's a good way to test your nerves and scare yourself silly during a dark and stormy night. During the game review, several critics highlighted the impressive quality of Gilbert's soundtrack. Eric Qualls specifically praised it, calling it one of the game's standout features. He mentioned that the same sound effects and similar music and everything just sounds right. Qualls also gave a nod to Tobin Bell's voice, saying it added a nice touch to the overall music and atmosphere. On the other hand, reviewer Kadath Bird pointed out that the iconic Hello Zepp theme was missing, but didn't delve into the soundtrack itself. Although Saw got a mix of reviews, most critics agreed that fans of the movie series would likely enjoy it. Alan Pettit from Xbox 360 Achievements shared that he found the game enjoyable, but not particularly remarkable. He noted that the choice of Zombie Studios as the developer held the game back and suggested that a sequel could thrive with a different developer and a bigger budget. While he found the gameplay somewhat repetitive, Pettit acknowledged that if there was only one thing the game did well, I'd say the puzzles that are put before you are excellently constructed, well thought out, and best of all, difficult enough that you may not get it on your first attempt. Pettit ultimately rated the game a 74 out of 100. The controversy. Just like the movies, the Saw video game has stirred up a lot of debate, with critics often labeling it as torture porn. The game's graphic violence and intense visuals have led many to argue that its main purpose is to inflict harm on characters for no real reason. While it's been compared to titles like Grand Theft Auto I4, Mad World, and Manhunt, it stands out because those games often had a humorous twist or some moral angle to their violence. William Usher from Cinema Blend pointed out that Saw crosses some serious lines, calling it a tutorial for sadists to get pleasure from. He noted that the absence of any moral message makes it even more contentious. One particularly shocking scene lets players slice open bodies and dig through their insides to find a key, which drew heavy criticism, especially from Cinema Blend, who described it as sick and tasteless. Despite this, Konami received indefinite ratings from the BBFC and ESRB, allowing the game to launch worldwide without any cuts. Robert Workman from Game Daily echoed the concerns about the lack of moral messages and included Saw in his list of the top 10 controversial games of 2009. Chris Holt from Macworld expressed surprise that Konami would release Saw while opting not to publish 6 Days in Fallujah due to its controversial nature. Konami later explained that the events in Fallujah were based on real-life incidents that could offend people, whereas Saw is purely fictional. Even with all the drama around the game, it still got the green light for release in Germany and Australia, places that usually don't allow explicit video games. Producer John Williamson mentioned in an interview, "Honestly, I figured there was no way it would get approved based on what I usually see online. but it sailed through on the first try. He tried to explain why the game was allowed by highlighting the smart aspects of both the game and the film series. He emphasized, "I think they reviewed the game based on everything that was in it, not just on a couple of minutes of it, just like the Saw movies themselves aren't really pure torture porn. If you pay attention, there's actually usually a big twist in them." He mentioned that if the Saw films turned into just typical torture porn, they wouldn't keep fans interested.